Testing, testing. We're going to get started in about 3 minutes. All right, welcome everyone. We're going to get started. For those that haven't met me yet, I'm Jeff Merrill, the Director of Planning and Development Services for the District of Lunenburg. Also with me this evening is Corinne Mahone, our planner. She will be giving the presentation tonight. The purpose of tonight is to give some information about the proposed amendments to the Osprey Village Secondary Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw. We are also streaming on YouTube. So for those that are listening on YouTube, unfortunately our video doesn't work for the presentation. So if you check the link in the description, there is a link. The staff presentation is available online on the engage.modl.ca website under the Osprey Village Plan Amendment 2025. There is a direct link in the description. I would note that we are meeting in person and live streaming from Mi'kma'ki, the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. For those in attendance, if you need the facilities, there's washrooms right out the door to your left. Yeah, and with that, I guess the format tonight is we'll give a staff presentation to explain what those amendments are, and then we'll take questions from anyone in the audience or online. And I'll turn it over to Corinne.
Thanks, Jeff. Hi, everyone who came out here in person, and thanks for everyone watching back home online. So yeah, let's get straight into it. So yeah, today we'll be having this public information session specifically about the Osprey Village planning amendments to the secondary planning strategy document and the land use bylaw document. So just as like a very brief overview, as we all know, Osprey Village is becoming a key growth hub within the district, but recent development interests have highlighted the lack of consistency of the area's planning policies, and as a result have created some obstacles for residential and commercial developments. This stems from the merging of two outdated planning documents to create what is the current Osprey Village plan, in addition to some of the original zoning and designations were designed for types of development that are no longer suitable for certain lots. So this presentation will give an overview of some of this history, as well as some of the obstacles that some of the potential development would face with the current policies and regulations in place, as well as the changes we are considering to make to the Osprey Village Plan documents that would specifically affect 3 areas in the village. These changes would allow suitable development to proceed as of right, avoiding delays created by some of these policies that currently require case-by-case approvals. So this is just a very brief overview of the agenda. So we'll focus on what the amendments would potentially look like, the areas that would be affected by these amendments, as well as the step-by-step process of what the amendments would look like. And then we'll move on to the question period. So I just wanted to put this up here as this is the satellite view of Osprey Village. We can see here some of this is from Google Maps, but you can see some of the businesses and development that are happening in the area, as well as some of the residential sprawling that's growing from the planned area here. And this is what the area looks like when we break down all of the land use zones that make up Osprey Village. And as you can see here, 3 properties, or 3 areas specifically, have been highlighted here that will be affected by the proposed amendments that we're making. So these 3 areas identified within Osprey Village are where the current designation and or zoning hinder the potential for suitable development that are the catalyst for the recommendations to amend these planning documents. So before we get into these 3 areas, I wanted to briefly go over the 2 planning documents that will have to be amended for these changes to proceed. So we have the 2 documents. We have the secondary planning strategy and the land use bylaw. So first we have the secondary planning strategy of Osprey Village. This is also called the SPS for short. This document essentially outlines the goals of planning in a specific community, as well as the intent of the various zones and regulations that are in place. Then we have the land use bylaw, also known as the LUB. This document carries out the intent of the policies and zones outlined in the secondary planning strategy by specifically listing the land uses and types of development that are permitted in each zone, as well as any other specific designation requirements, any other specific design requirements, such as setbacks, height limits, densities, stuff like that. So these 2 documents go hand in hand when planning, as well as when amendments are being made, as we will see with the 3 areas in question. So the first area we'll be looking at is a property at the corner of Harold Wynot Road. It currently has the industrial designation, and it is zoned light industrial under this designation. This was originally part of the Lunenburg Municipal Industrial Planned Area. So it used to be its own separate planned area. Notably, much of the land here is unserviced. This whole plan area was then consolidated with the Osprey Village plan area back in 2022. Notably, the original Osprey Village plan area, a lot of that area is serviced. So the original Osprey Village secondary planning strategy encouraged high-density residential development throughout their policies, which when just looking at the serviced area would be feasible and make more use out of the area servicing with high density. And the LUB regulation supported this objective by setting a minimum density of 25 units, 25 residential units per hectare, so effectively preventing single detached dwellings. However, this high density standard did not change when the Osprey Village and Lunenburg Municipal Industrial Planning areas merged to become one. Because of this, the standard is also applied to unserviced properties within the planned area, such as the property along Harold Wynot Road. While promoting high-density development in serviced areas makes efficient use of existing infrastructure, applying the same standards to unserviced areas can sometimes hinder housing development where lower-density residential may currently be the only viable option. So there has been recent interest from developers to develop the property on Harold Wynot Road for residential use. However, it will be difficult to meet the high-density requirements that are currently in place, while simultaneously being located in the unserviced area of the community. So that brings us to the first potential amendment, which is to remove the minimum density requirements for unserviced areas within Osprey Village. So this would help to permit the scale of residential development that is feasible for properties that are not connected to central water and sewage infrastructure. The second area is several properties along Nathan Cirillo Road and Alley Champlain Drive. This area is currently designated as community use and is zoned institutional under this designation. So this area was originally designated and zoned in anticipation of a larger recreational facility. However, the site for this development was moved elsewhere. So because the designation and zoning of this area was chosen specifically for a development that ultimately will not exist at this location, in addition to the permitted uses being restrictive in institutional zones, it has become a bit of a hindrance for the growth of other potential developments, residential, commercial, what have you. So that brings us to the second potential amendment, which would be to rezone and redesignate this land to permit things like residential or commercial uses. And the third area is a triangular property near the corner of Nathan Cirillo Road and Pine Grove Road, and is currently designated as residential, specifically zoned as high-density residential. While there have been discussions to develop this property under the high-density residential zoning regulations, several constraints on the lot make high-density development quite difficult. And as the property has largely been undisturbed and contains natural features, its use could be better reflected by rezoning to open space, which would be brings us to the third potential amendment, which is to rezone and redesignate the property to be an open space zone. So with the overview of these three properties, both the secondary planning strategy policies and the land use bylaw regulations of Osprey Village will require amendments to rectify the aforementioned three cases. This will permit appropriate residential development on unserviced land, expand areas that permit residential and commercial use, and protect open space that is otherwise undevelopable. So overall, the goal of these amendments is to help the Osprey Village Plan to better reflect the community's unique development needs and patterns. So now we can get into what the next steps will look like with the amendment process. So last month on the 14th of January, Council directed staff to hold a public information session, which we're doing right now, and kickstart the amendment process for the Osprey Village Plan. So that brings us here today. So after today's session and the information collected during the feedback and discussion during our question period, we will prepare a report on the proposed amendments and their impacts to our Planning Advisory Committee. Members of the public are encouraged to attend to learn more, ask questions, and voice any concerns during the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. It'll take place 2 weeks from now on February 20th, and we'll update our Engage site. So if you would like to follow up and get more details about this meeting, we'll be updating our site after this session today. So based on the staff report that we'll give to the Planning Advisory Committee, the committee will then provide its own recommendations that will then be taken to Municipal Council. If Council approves the amendments that the Planning Advisory Committee have recommended, Council will notify all residents of its intention to accept the proposed amendments in the near future through the first reading. A public hearing is then held to receive further feedback from members of the public. And then after hearing from everyone, Council will make a final decision on the proposed amendments and proceed with the second reading. Once second reading is passed, the municipal clerk will publish a notice of approval, and the amended secondary planning strategy and land use bylaw will then come into effect, finalizing the process. So that's just a brief overview of what the next steps will look like. We have the link to stay updated on our Engage site, as well as a QR code if you prefer to go to our site that way. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, if there's any questions, we'd welcome those. Can I just, can I get you to come up to one of the mics? Just so those online can hear the questions directly?
So this just stems from a conversation that I just had with the mayor and Councillor Reinhardt. Has there been any consideration, and I should have asked this at council, I know, about carving out like a green space and keeping some green space for the area?
Thank you, Councillor. That's a great question. So for one, like I guess in relation to these specific amendments, like for example, the last property that we were looking at, the triangular property, will be rezoned to open space. So like when we identify pieces of land that would be difficult to develop into, residential or commercial, any kind of structure would be difficult to be developed there. This would essentially, this process would make it so that it could be rezoned to open space. But in terms of like dedicating green space on places that are developed to like ensure that residents have access to green space, I think that might be like a larger conversation about like the overall plan. And maybe not so much like these specific cases.
So are you telling me the triangle-shaped, the number 3 lot, is open space? It will remain open space?
So it's currently zoned as high-density residential.
Right.
I believe it's because it used to be part of a larger lot, and I think it might have gotten subdivided. So it's just kind of this like leftover lot that stayed high-density residential, but partially because of the lot size being so small and some like other environmental reasons, it's really difficult to build anything there essentially. So currently it's high-density residential, and one of our proposed amendments would be to rezone it to be open space.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
No worries.
Any other questions from those in the audience? Well, I'll just check online. I don't see any online questions. So if there's no other questions, yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. If you leave tonight and you get home and you have a question, feel free to contact municipal staff. You can get us on the Engage, no online questions. You can get us on the engage.modl.ca website, and our contact information is there. And as Corinne mentioned, the Planning Advisory Committee will be discussing this on the 20th of February. Yeah, thank you. Oh, we have a question.
Just a quick question. Is there a copy of this presentation?
Yep, it's already posted on our Engage sites specifically for this project. I think if you you can follow the link. If you scan the QR code, it'll just take you directly to this specific project. And then on the right side of the page, if you scroll down, you'll see documents on the side, and I think currently it's like the only document that's up there. So yes, it's accessible to the public and for your viewing. No worries.
Great. All right. Have a good night.